There we go. All right, so the tricky part is that Inventor is basically the one who decides what to move to make these two lines parallel. And that can be very annoying, as we'll see in some examples later on. Right, but that'd be one thing that we can do. That was the parallel. We can do things to be at right angles, right? So I could say this line and this line should be at a right angle. There we go, right? That's there. We can say we want to have things be horizontal and vertical. Now, the tricky part with horizontal and vertical, right? Let's try this out, right? So if I say I want to have, let's say I want to have this line here be horizontal, then where did I put the rest? All the way out there. So again, this is one of those things where Inventor will move stuff around to keep some relationship that it thinks is important, but in our case isn't. So before we do that one, let's do another one. Let's go and use this one. This is a very important constraint. This is the constraint that says basically stay where you are. Let's say that our circle is the one that we're going to keep. So whatever I do, I can't move this circle anymore. All right, let's try again our horizontal one, right? So if I choose this line to be horizontal, then we'll see that it actually didn't make it horizontal and made it vertical. Now, why is that the case? Well, the case is that horizontal for Inventor, right? If we go into it, you can actually see it. It says that it wants to be if you read the little text there, right? It says parallel to the x-axis. So we would have to actually figure out that we're looking at our drawing here, kind of looking that way. So if we flip it like this, then now it is horizontal, right? So we have to be a little careful with those horizontal and vertical constraints. Now, so that was horizontal, and this is vertical. Then we have something that tries to do tangents. So if I draw another circle down here somewhere, right, then I can say like I want to have this line and this circle be tangent, right? So now they're stuck together. Of course, I can do multiple of those, right? I can say like, well, I also want to have the circle be tangent to this circle, right? And then it's moved out over there. Now, of course, this means that I can't really do much with this circle anymore. I can't move, or if I want to move, let's look at this, right? So if I want to move the center of this, right, then the only way I can move the center is by making the circle bigger or smaller, because it has to stay tangent with this line and it has to stay tangent with that circle, right? So that's what this does. We have a whole bunch of other ones. One that I don't use all that often, but let's do two just simple rectangles. A rectangle here, and maybe a rectangle there. And let's do my line in between, right? Then I can use this symmetry one where I can say like, well, I want this line and this line to be symmetric about this line. Then you can see it moved one of them farther away. So now this distance from here to there is the same as that distance. Again, this is not a constraint I use very often. The equal one is interesting, because that basically takes two different objects and it keeps them basically the same, right? So if I have one circle and another circle, and I use this equal constraint, right? I say this one's equal to that one, then you can see that now they have the same size. If I were to go in and change this size to maybe 10, put it in there first, 10, then it automatically changes that one as well. So that would be that constraint. What are we missing? Oh, we're missing the collinear one, right? So that's basically if I do a line like that maybe, and I say I want to have it this line and that line being collinear. Well, now not only are they now collinear, they're stuck together, but I can move them farther apart, right? But they're going to stay on the same line. If I now change the orientation of this one, see if we can, doesn't even allow us because it's now too constrained, but it's going to stay them on the same line. we already did the lock one, and then the last one that we have is kind of a little bit similar to the coincident one. But if I have two circles, right, if I draw another smaller circle over here and I do this one, right, I can choose this diameter and this diameter, and then it's going to fit them together so that they're at the same center point. All right, any questions so far?
Nope.
Well, if you guys don't have any questions, then I have a very important question for you. What happened to all the cameras? Or not even all the cameras, but the few cameras
Professor,
on. All got
I
turned
was
off.
going to tell you. I don't know why my camera doesn't work in my Mac, and I got a laptop, a Windows laptop, to download Inventor, which is the one I used for the exam on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't allow me to use my microphone, so I have either one or the other.
Okay. All right.
But I'm here. I'm here.
Yes. Antonio, you had a question?
Yeah, no, it's not that important, but I was just curious if, like, for example, for the parallel constraint, if you change the order of the lines you select, it will change what is parallel to what, or will it always like be Inventor like decide?
Unfortunately, Inventor decides. It doesn't matter which line you click first. That was my, like, when I started with this, that was also my intuitive thought, was like it would make a lot of sense, right? But it's basically there's an algorithm there that tries to keep the overall shape as much similar to what it was before. And that's basically what it tries to do. And you may have run into this issue when you were doing your sketch and you changed one of the dimensions, that like everything else kind of shifted in a weird way. And that's the same problem. However, always remember that you have that little lock constraint, right? So if there's something in there where you say, okay, I know this is where it is, it's supposed to be there, then just use that and you're in good shape. All right, let's try some other stuff. And that is the other set. We kind of already talked about trim, extend, and split, but maybe we can just do that one more time. While all of our lines are nice and straight now, so that's not very helpful. Let's do a line right there, for instance. Right, remember that extend, basically if I hold my mouse onto that line, if I hover above it, then it will extend that line until it hits the next boundary, right? In this direction, if I go towards the other one, it goes to that direction, right? And then it kind of keeps on going. We'll try to keep on doing that until it can't anymore, right? If I look in this direction, there's just nothing, there's no more boundaries for it to go. Right, so I can do that. Again, I can trim stuff, right? So if I didn't want to have this in the middle here, I could trim that away again, and I have these two lines that are now coincident. I could have also just drawn them in and used the coincident constraint, but this to me often is a little easier. Let's extend this in this direction for a little bit. There. Another thing that we can use is the split, right? So now I have, basically, if I'm just looking at this, I have one long line, right? This extend doesn't add new lines, it just creates one longer and longer line, right? So now if I want to do something with one of these lines, but not all of them, right, then I could split it back into pieces. So I can, you see that little X there, right? It means if I'm here, it's gonna create now, instead of this one big line, I have two lines, like this line and that line, right? And that every now and then these kind of things become important. So that's kind of part of the modify. I think the copy, rotate, and move are all kind of self-explanatory, but we will go through them anyway.
Professor,
yeah.
Could you extend another line so I can see that?
Yes. So if I want to hit extend,
Thank you.
Let's do this line, for instance. All right, so you just have to hover over whatever it is that you want to extend, and then in the direction that you want to extend, right? If I want to extend to the left, I go towards the left end of my line. If I want to go to the right, that can't, because it doesn't have anything to intersect. Interesting, right? Because it doesn't intersect with this line. So it could only do this direction, and I can keep on going if I wanted to. that work?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right, then let's look at move. So move basically is, it's not as important as it used to be, I guess, because a couple of versions ago they kind of started allowing you just kind of drag and drop stuff around anyway, but this is a little more precise, right? So if I wanted to move this line to somewhere else, then this is already started to be highlighted. I click on that, and then it asks me for a base point. So what is it that I want to base my movement on? Let's say I want to move it on that place. Okay, so it's already constrained to all kinds of stuff. So let's just get rid of that constraint. Now you can say I can move it. I could move it wherever I want, right? So maybe I want to move it down there. I can also make a copy of it, right? So if I say, well, I'm going to move this one, and I'm going to use this as the point, and then move that one there, but the original one stays in place. Right? That's move. Copy is very similar. The big difference that we'll see is that we can, now if we might make a copy, we can copy that to the clipboard and then paste it into a different drawing. So that can be very helpful. And then rotate is exactly what it sounds like, right? So if I wanted to take, let's take this line here because we like it so much. And again, we'll select the point. Maybe we'll rotate it around this point now. Then you can see I can rotate it just by clicking on the mouse, or I can put it in an angle if I wanted to. Now, very important on this one is that we can basically leave the original in place if we want to do that, right? Then we can click the little copy here. And then if I put it somewhere, then the original stays in place. Right? That can be certainly helpful. So with that, we have this group of modify. And then we have another group over here within modify. And of those three, I have to say I really usually only use offset, but let's look at the other ones as well. So scale is basically, I can grab myself, let's do this rectangle here maybe, could be a single piece, but let's do this one. And then a base point, doesn't have to be within my system. Also been already constrained, but we don't care about those constraints, right? So we can see I can make this bigger and smaller, either by scaling around, or I can just put a factor in, right? If I want to double the size, then there you go. Now it's, I hit the wrong button there, right? But that's how scale works. Stretch works in a similar way. So if I just choose, again, my rectangle here, and then I use a point, right? Then yes, I want to change it. That is not what I was trying to do. I want to stretch these two based on that point. Then you can see I can kind of draw this out, right? So I could have it like this, and now it's no longer a rectangle. Again, I don't use stretch and scale that much, but what I do use is offset. I think that's a very, very helpful thing. So in offset, again, we'll ask you to choose your locations. In this case, if I choose this one, right? So I can basically, it helps me draw something that fits into this, the inside of this. I could also do it on the outside. So that can be very helpful to draw some things. And it works with, you know, if you want to think about more complicated geometries as well, right? So it works for this one. It would work for an entire polygon as well, right? So that offset can do all kinds of very interesting things for us. Question about the modified part. Now, very good. All right, so let's do the last grouping for today, and then we'll do some examples together, and then I'll let you work on them yourself. And that is the pattern section. Now, this pattern section can help you a lot, both in 2, and we'll use it in 3D as well. It can make stuff a lot easier to do. So let's make a simple example. Right? So we'll click rectangle. It opens up another little window here. And first, we need to choose the geometry that we want to have a pattern of. So let's say just a circle. Right? We want to have a line of circles, and then we have to decide a direction. Now, this is a little bit annoying, and that is that you cannot use the coordinate axes directly for this. You have to choose a line that's drawing somewhere, right? So if I wanted, for instance, have a pattern where I have just a row of circles in what for us is the horizontal, I could click this line, and then you'll see it adds kind of this green arrow. I can switch this green arrow to the other direction, and you can already see that it's starting to draw extra circles. Now, in this case, it says the pattern is supposed to have 2 circles, but if we say maybe we want to have 4 circles, right? Then you can see it draws these 4 circles. And it, as a standard, says we'll start with 10 millimeters. If we want to have it closer together, right, then we have them overlapping. If I want to have them all apart, right, I can do that. And then it will draw me this nice pattern. I can also have it go in multiple directions, right? So if I wanted to have it go in 2 directions, then I have to do a second direction that I have to choose. Let's flip that and go downward. Again, I can say how many, maybe 3 in that direction, and maybe distance of 20. Right? And if I hit OK, then now I have all these circles. Now, the thing that is a little annoying about this pattern command is that these circles are now all connected together. And so it's hard to do a whole lot of editing on them. Also, you will no longer be allowed to get rid of the lines that you used as your direction. Right? You can't just delete them anymore. So if you have to draw extra lines, I mean, it doesn't matter in the end, because once you extrude to 3D, they're going to be, deleted anyway, or they won't be visible anymore. But this can be a little annoying. Now we don't have to do this in nice kind of coordinate directions, right? We can also do this as at angles, right? So we can say, let's just do a little one over here, just to see as an example, right? So if I do my rectangular again, let's choose my geometry right there, and I can say, well, I want to have one direction like this and the other direction like that, right? And so it will do the same thing. I kind of have to decide where those are. All right, so that was the rectangular pattern. Now let's do a polygon, for instance, or a slot. We have done a whole lot of slots. Let's do a slot like this, completely random. And then we have to find ourselves, so maybe this is something else that we can see, right? This is just, we can just put a point somewhere. Let's put a point right there. Right, so now if I wanted to have a whole bunch of these going around, right, then I could do the circular one. I can choose my geometry. Be careful to choose all 4 parts of it. There we go. And then the center, that's where we need our point for. We'll choose our point. And now you can see that it automatically arranges these in a circle. This was 5. Maybe we want to have 12, a whole bunch of them. Maybe we don't want to have the whole 360. Maybe we want to only have it over 270 for some reason. And just like we did with before with directions, we can switch that around as well. Right? So now we would have all these in there instead of having to figure out what the angle is and then drawing them separately, right? So this can be really helpful to draw a whole bunch of things at the same time. So that was the circular one. And then the last one here is our mirror. So let's draw ourselves a line, because we have to mirror it about something. And then so we can hit the mirror command. Again, we have to select what we want. We can just maybe select all of our pieces here, and then select the line. And then very important to say apply before it's done. And there we are. Right? It's now created a mirror of that. And the good thing with the mirror is at least we can we can take that line away again, the line away again at the end. So that makes it a little nicer. All right, any questions about all these little tools that we've seen, right? So all these tools are basically there to make your life a little easier, right? So it might not seem it and now that it's easier, but it will help. All right, so let's finish our sketch and then get rid of it. Remember that you can't close a file if it's in sketch mode. If we want to save it, no, we're not really interested. So let's do some examples where we can practice some of this stuff. Let's see. Maybe not quite that small. That over here. Over. This one as well. All right, so let's create a new one. This looks all to be millimeters, so let's make sure we do that correctly. Standard millimeters, create. And now we have our little setup here. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit. There we go. All right, so we have this shape right here. Now, of course, we could just draw a big rectangle, cut the pieces out here and here, put the 4 circles in, put the center in, and we're good, right? So it's not something that is super complicated, but we can do that a little easier too, right? We can see that this piece is actually symmetric about 2 axes, right? So it's symmetric across this line and it's symmetric across that line, which of course means that we can use our mirror command, right? So what we'll do, we'll just draw basically this 1/4 and then we'll draw on the rest. So let's start our sketch right there, and we'll keep the center as kind of the center here. It makes it easy for us to draw. So let's draw maybe kind of a line that we can throw away later. But we know from the center out to here would have to be how far? All the way out is 50, says it there. And it says that from here to here is 20, and it's all symmetric. So that's 50 minus 20 is 30. So let's draw a line that's 30 right there. So it gives us here, means we want to go up 20. Gets it up there. Remember that if you want to kind of zoom to the entire extent, then you can just click on that little box there. All right, so now we're at this corner right there. So that means if we want to go out, we need to have another 20. Right there. That puts us at that corner. And we can't see how far that is because we're blacking it out. Overall, it's supposed to be 50. This was 20, so we're going to go up 30. Remember that if you have any questions, I need to be on this window here. 30. If you have questions, just let me know. And then, of course, this goes all the way back over here in a straight line. Right, so now we have kind of this outline shape here. We don't really need to have this line for anything, so we can delete that one. It's just kind of a helping line of that distance we can leave. Now we could mirror this and then cut the holes in and round off the corners, but of course we can also do that before we mirror everything. So we need to make these roundings, right? These fillets. Let's see, the fillets are supposed to be radius 10, says right there. So let's go to our fillet command. Radius of 10, right there, and right there. Those are the only places, looks about right. And then we also need to have our circles, our holes in there. Let's just draw something right there. Should use the right, at least the right diameter. Where the holes are all 12s. 12, and then we can dimension it. So we know to the bottom. So like that was supposed to be 35. We're actually surprisingly close. And then I think the other one's dimension over here to that direction is the center is 35. So this here to that there. Also not that far off, 35. All right, let's see. All right, so now we basically have our base shape there. We just have to mirror it over to the other side. Now to do that, remember that we have to have something to mirror it with. So let's draw a nice vertical line somewhere. Right, that's where I didn't draw it close to here because if I want to select all this at once, it's easier to do if my line is not there. So let's do mirror, select all of this, and then our mirror line, which is hard to see, goes right there, and to do apply. And there we go, right? So we have the other half is drawn. So now all we have to do is do done, draw ourselves another line right there, right? Because we want to mirror all this stuff down there. So actually move that a little bit because your faces are in the way. And then we want to mirror again. Choose all of our stuff here. Everything in there, our mirror line right out there. Don't always remember to hit, like this is one where it's a little strange where it's the apply and the done are kind of separate. So you have to make sure that you hit the apply. There we go. And then the only piece that's left is the square in the center there. So let's go to our rectangle, do the one where we decide where the center is, because that's in the center there. And it's 20 in both directions, right? Because it's 10 from the center out there. So overall it's 20. So we can say 20 and 20. And there you go, right? I think that gives us all that we're looking for. So we can finish the sketch. Do it there, and then it says thickness of 16. So that's does 10, so we'll do 16, and there we go. There's our part is done. Could look at it from the top maybe to make it look good, and then look from here. All right, any questions on how we did this part? You know, the only one who I can see is Thomas. He did not have any questions apparently. And then nobody else. So I guess once it up also doesn't. All right, so that was our first example, right? So this was basically an example to do mirroring. Now, if you remember to the not last time, because we had the exam, but the one before that, we could have done mirroring there as well, but I hadn't gone over it yet, so I didn't want to in class. All right, so let's do another one. This one right here looks a little more difficult, and it is a little more difficult. No question about it. Maybe let's do this a little smaller. There we go. All right, so, but it still looks like it's in millimeters. So let's do a new part. Standard millimeters, create. And there we go, right? So now we want to go ahead and draw this. And this is, as you can imagine, a little more complicated. And we'll use all kinds of different tools to do that. Of course, this looks very much like a circular pattern. So we're going to basically use a circular pattern as our main tool. So let's start the sketch. Sometimes with these sketches, you just have to kind of start and see how things go. So definitely what we want to have, these circles seem to be important because it seems that these outer kind of wobbly shapes are also centered on these circles, right? So we'll definitely want to know where these circles are. So let's start with a single circle. We know that the distance that they're all away here, what's this distance? We know that these are 20. We know that we have 12. That's good. And there we go, 160. So we know the distance from there up to there would be 80. So let's draw a single circle. And let's say, so this time we'll punch in the location directly. So we have, you can see X is now 5 point something and 0. So let's hit our tab key and go in and say, well, we said 160 was the diameter, so 80 would be the radius. 0 is good. And then we know our circles are supposed to have a diameter of 20. So if I zoom out, I can now see my circle right up there. That'd be my first of my circle. Now, it is very tempting to go right ahead and say, like, now I'm going to make the entire, whatever, 12 circles with a pattern. The problem if you do that is it's very difficult to edit anything once the pattern is in place, right? We can't necessarily edit stuff that was in the pattern afterwards. So what we want to do is we actually want to create this entire kind of wobbly shape around this, because again, all these wobbly kind of things are tied directly to the circles. So let's try and create these wobbly things as well. So maybe the first thing that we can see is that we have another circle that kind of goes all the way like this, right? It says here it is also 12, right? So on each of our circles, but now it's a radius of 20. So that would be a diameter of 40, right? Remember that when we do full circles, we do diameters. So let's do another one. So we'll just choose the same place there. We could also have used the concentric circle constraint, but we don't have to add extra constraints. That's better. And so now we have this outside circle. And now the question is, how do we get the other circles, right? So we get the information that this right here, like the diameter of this circle is, for what looks like a 30. Scroll over here, yeah, so that's a radius 30. And on the inside there, radius of 30 as well. Now, what their circles, what we don't know is where the center of that circle is, right? Here, for these, it was easy because we knew the center was the same as these circles. For those, we don't know the circles. So what I would suggest we do is that we take our two circles that we have here and we'll rotate them over by 30 degrees. And then we have a second one, then we can kind of use some other constraints to fill in the gap. So let's do the rotate first. So we go to rotate. Again, we select the shapes. We want to rotate both the outer and the inner circle. We'll select this as the center point of it, right? That's why I like to start stuff at 0. You can see that now I get this. Very important. Let's not forget to keep our original one, and then we can now put in that it's 30, right? Because it tells us that all those are 30. And there we go. Now we have two of kind of the center shapes and kind of the outbulging parts. Now comes the stuff where it becomes a little more tricky, a little more involved, right? So the way that we use these is basically we'll draw another circle and we make that circle be tangent to both of these circles. And then we can do some trimming and we can get where we want to go. So we know that these inside bumps here, right, it says right there, are supposed to be a radius of 30. So that means they are a diameter of 60. Let's do 60 right there. And now we can use our constraints, right? Remember that we have this constraint that tells us to get stuff to be tangent. Now, I would always recommend to draw the circle here relatively close to where you want it to be in the end, because if you put it somewhere far away, then it might create all kinds of difficulties. Might still create difficulties, so let's see. So if we put these in there, it moved that one down. Good, it's exactly where we want it to be. And now it also has to be there. And as you can see, it moved something around. So that's not what we wanted to happen. So let's use our constraints and say that we want that circle to stay where it is. And now let's try the constraint here again. Oh, why did it move that circle when I said, oh, because the inner has to be where it's as well. Let's do. This one's supposed to stay and go out of that constraint and next constraint. It's still not doing that. All right, so then we'll put a dimension there. Right? Sometimes it's very persistent. Let's put this dimension in there and say that is 80, just like we decided. Now, let's hope that it doesn't try to move this to the side, but we'll see. If not, we'll put another, you can always add more dimensions. There we go. Now this time works. All right, so now let's go out of our constraint. Now we can cut away the rest of this circle. Right? We don't need all this outside of the circle. We only need this inside bit. And we'll do the same thing on the inside. These bumps are also radius 30. So now I wonder if we could just mirror that over there. Oh, let's try this. Right, because these are the same radius, and that one down here should be smaller than the other one. So let's do the line there as our mirror line. And then let's use a mirror to mirror this one on that line. Done, and I put it exactly where we want it to be. Excellent. So we can get rid of this line again. Don't need that anymore. So now we also have kind of the inside lines here. Now let's have a quick look if there's extra pieces to that line. I don't think so. All right, good. So of course then we can get rid of the inside pieces, and there we go. Right, we kind of have our setup. Now the tricky part is that if we just use this to rotate, to do a circular pattern, then we'll have these are going to be overlapping everywhere, and we don't want to do those too many times. So I think what we'll do, I think we need to rotate the other piece back again. Rotate. Let's say we want to rotate this one and that one. Center point here. We want to create, we can make a copy. And so we want to have them, maybe that didn't work. It should be here. No, I think our other construction might have not worked the way that I thought. I think that line is too long. Let's go back and do this differently. Let's do another circle with a constraint. So another 60 right here. And constraint here to there. And there to there. All right. Now let's do trim. So you can see every now and then there's stuff that doesn't work the way that you thought it would work. And then so we wanted to rotate those over. This one and that one. Copy. And do our point. And that would be, why is this not? I wonder why these are not fitting. That is very interesting. Right, so as you can see, they're not fitting here and here. If our construction was correct, they should be. So I wonder. Aha, this one did move. Well, let's see. So this was our original construction. So let's put the dimensions in right away. I'm not run into that problem again. Let's put the diameters in here. right there. Now let's draw our circles again. Should not move them anywhere now. 60. And let's do our constraints there. It still moved that circle. I think that's probably what was the problem. So let's dimension that into place as well. Right? We don't really need to know what those dimensions are. Just that needs to stay in place. There we go. Now we do our. All right, so I wonder if that was the issue. Let's try all this then. Trim here. Let's see if it now rotates without being annoying. And our point down there. There we go. Yeah, so for some reason our circle did move. All right, so let's do the bottom one. Sorry if that created some confusion there. Right, so the problem was that this circle in our other construction had shifted down just a little bit, and then all those other constructions don't work anymore. I'll trim the rest of this circle away. Then we can rotate that part as well. It's fine. Anyway, 30. Now they fit. All right. So that means we can cut away, can trim that part and that part. And then we can basically, well, actually we can get rid of this circle altogether if we can. Might we only need them for construction? Now we can use all this to do our pattern. So the circular pattern will need this part and that part, that part, that part, and that part. We want to go around this. Why is it not allowing you to choose? Choose that, and we need not 6 but 12. And we can say okay, and there we go. Right, so now we have that entire shape. Right, instead of doing 12 of, like, you know, rotating all those circles, doing all those constraints over and over, right? We can do that once, and we have our system. So all that's left is that center part in the middle, and of course that's just a rounded slot with a circle through it. So let's go with a slot. This has given us the distance from center to center, so it's our regular slot. We want to start. Those are 40, so 0 is good. 0 and 40. That's not what I said to do. Try this again. Why does it keep on going up there? Well, doesn't want it that way, then we'll just dimension it later. Here and here, and it's supposed to be a radius of 10. Now, you just saw what happens. Does this look like the right size? And that is because it is expecting, although it's a slot and these are half circles, it is still expecting it to be a diameter, right? So we'd have to go in and do this again. Draw this in there. And now do 20, and that gives us the right size. Now we still need to dimension the locations. So that would be the center. There was supposed to be 40. Distance from there to that center was also supposed to be 40. And with that, our slot is in the right space. Means we need our circle. That circle is supposed to have a diameter of 50. It's interesting that they give the diameter, not the arc there. And then all we're left with is some trimming. Trim this one, that one, that one, and that one. And with that, our shape is good, I think. Let's go into 3D and now do the extrusion. So it says that the overall, the thickness is 6 and the central area is 4. So I'm assuming this outer ring is 6 and that one's. So let's extrude. All right, we can see that it captures this as a closed area, so we're good. And it was supposed to be 6, not 10. So let's put 6 and okay. Right, so that extruded this part. Now, the problem is our sketch is no longer there with the rest, but remember we can go into extrusion and then make our sketch visible again, right there, and then we can extrude the rest of the sketch. That was supposed to be 4. And then we want to get rid of the visibility again because it's kind of, and with that we have our system in place. Not necessarily straightforward, but like, you know, step by step by step. The way that I approach these often is that I'll just start drawing and see what happens, right? And if something doesn't work out, if like I have a strategy of how to get these weird kind of corners into place, if that doesn't work, then we'll just have to figure out a different one. Is there a question about this shape right here? All right. Then let's do one more before I let you guys work on your own stuff. Now, this one goes exactly against what we just talked about earlier today. Yeah. Right, this is definitely inches, but you can see there's a 0 there. Not good. But nonetheless, let's make one in inches. I'll go to English, standard inches. Again, not cheap metal, but standard. And create. And now we're supposed to create this little piece right here. I think we'll start with that little circle right there. That's nice and good place to start. So if we start with that circle, we'll just start it at 0, 0. And it's supposed to have, sorry, those are all diameter of 1 inch. So we have our circle there. Then we can do our line of circles up there. So let's do a second circle. Guessing they're all 1 inch. I'm guessing are all 1 inch. And I can dimension that one to be in the right position. So it's 2 inches in this direction. And then in this direction, it's 1.5 from here to here, 0.5 from there to there, so it should be 1. Center of this, center of that. There we go. I want that to be 1, and there we go. Now we can draw our other 4 circles, or we can use a pattern. Remember, to do this pattern, though, we have to have a line that's pointing in that direction. So let's scroll out a little bit where we're not going to be annoyed by it later, and just put a line up there. Right, that's just for our direction. Then we're going to say we want a rectangular pattern. Well, we just want a line. We want it to be this geometry, and we want to do it in the direction of this line. Now you're seeing it's going the wrong direction, so we can just put this little flip right here. We know that we want to have 4, not 2. And we know that we want to have a distance of 1.5 instead of 1. And we're good. We have our 4 circles. Now that means we need to have these curves. Now these curves are supposed to be R1 here and R1 there. So we'll just draw another, scroll in a little bit here and pan. So what we want to do is we'll just draw a circle, one circle here, the radius with a diameter of 2, because it's giving us radius 1, and the same thing there. So now we have the curve shape here and the curve shape there, which means we can just draw a line. It will automatically select the top of the circle, so that looks good. We can do the same approach for that line right there. Well, we just need to get this curve. Now this is 1.5, so diameter of 2.5. And we can do the same thing. Right? We can have kind of automatically have it be tangential. Don't need a second. Right, so we have those lines there. Now this one is a little trickier. This one will have to do another constraint for a circle that's against here. Right, so we need a circle that has diameter of 8 here, and we want it to be here and there. That looks good. It didn't shift anything as far as I could see, and so now all we have to do is trim away the stuff that we don't want. We don't want that. We don't want this. We don't want this. This can go. This can go. Some extras in there. This. And then it says 2 points. Here they didn't put the 0. Interesting. All right, for the thickness, they didn't put the 0. Inconsistent, not very good. All right, and with that, we have our part. Yeah, looks pretty much what they have here. I think we're in good shape. Looks a little like brass knuckles. Not that I would want you to create brass knuckles. In our case, it would be plastic knuckles printed out. All right. Those were the examples that I was planning to give you. We can quickly look at the stuff that I'm asking you to do today in class sketches B. You should be able to see my PDF now. All right, so there's another 4 that I want to do. There's this one right here. They're all in the book, so if you can look at the books too. Yeah, so here they're better. They didn't put the 0. Right, so this one is in inches. You can see, right, you kind of have these cuts here. You have a slot. You could think about it being symmetric across this line here. Not sure that really helps you very much. I would think I would just draw it as is. Here another one, pretty straightforward to do. Again, this one's inches. This one looks very complicated, but really isn't all that difficult to do.
Professor, the R there is radius, right? Not diameter.
For which one?
You can scroll down. I think it's the last one.
This one here, like if it's not a full circle, anytime there's an R in front of it, like this one here, for instance, right?
Yeah,
That's a radius. But be careful when you're with the slots, right? If you are entering it in kind of, if you're in slot mode and you enter it, then you have to do it as a diameter. It's expecting the diameter, not the radius when you're creating a slot. Right, so you'd have to, when you're drawing this, you'd have to do a 0.5.
Right. Okay.
Then we have this one right here, which is just how many sides is it? I think it's 12 sides. Right, you just have to do your polygon here, and then do a circular pattern to put the circle to the center, and then you can do the rectangle here. Right, so this looks pretty involved, but it actually, something that you can do in, I don't know, 10 clicks or something like that, right? So it's relatively fast. And then the last one is this kind of Power Rangers mask, I guess, kind of in a way, right? This one is very much, especially the top part here, right? So draw one of these and then you mirror it over to have the other part. The rest, does not really help you to have it be symmetrical. But for this line, yes, so I would start by just drawing this line, copy it over with that line, then you can draw kind of the half circle that goes onto it, and then you can add these, this rectangle here, like, draw a circle, trim out the stuff that you don't need. Don't forget to put the fillets in, right? All these corners are filleted. And then again, do the same down here. You draw a circle, you trim it away, and then don't forget to fillet the corners there. Again, it's one of those things that looks relatively complex, but it really isn't. Any questions about these?
When is this homework due?
It is due on
Monday, it
today's
says.
Thursday, so it's Monday. Yeah. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah. Okay, good. It's not Tuesday. Could not live with it being Tuesday. It's the weekend thing. So yeah, it's due on Monday. But you have also almost an hour left to work on these, so you should get pretty far within an hour. What's next? So if you need any assistance, let me know. I think I'm going to stop the recording.